Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. This is episode 10 with Greg Kimball, the part 2 of the Greg Kimball episodes. Thank you for listening, and thanks for all of the good feedback from the first episode. Looking forward to hearing what people think of this episode. Before we get into it, though, we've got a couple of upcoming open mic dates between now and the next podcast. So if you listen to this as soon as it comes out, we've got the Basement Open Mic tomorrow, which is the 21st of February. That one kicks off at 8, and remember, it runs the third Tuesday of every month. So if you missed this one, head on down for the next one. We've got on the 29th of February, we've got the Boardwalk Open Mic in Belconnen. Kicks off at 8 o'clock. Also on the 31st, I'll be doing a guest spot on Local and Live, the 2XXFM 98.3. Going on there and chatting comedy and doing a bit of a gig guide, so make sure you tune into that to hear me on that program. And brings us now into some more of the ticketed events that are coming up. So we've got on the 31st Beyond Q Comedy, so make sure you go and buy your tickets online for that one. All the details are in the event page. On the 7th of February, we've got 15 Minutes of Fame. So that one's at the Boardwalk, starting at 8 o'clock. So you can also buy tickets from the event for that one. And then finally, we got Greg Kimball's comedy festival show called Head. We talk about that in this episode, but just giving it a shout out at the start. That's available. You can get tickets from his website, which I'll put in the description below on social media, but make sure you go and get some tickets for that one. It's on the 18th of March at Street Theatre 2, kicking off at 7 p.m. And then finally, I've got one upcoming interstate event on the 7th of Feb. Come and check that one out, Wagga Wagga, if you're around, presented by the Riverina Comedy Club. Be doing supports for Bart Freebaron, and also joined by two local comedians, Taylor Coftry and Bradley Bishop. So we'll be heading out to Wagga Wagga for that one on the 7th of February. Doors at 7:30. So if you're in the area, come and check that one out. It'll be cool to get on stage at my first New South Wales gig. And until then, listen to the episode and make sure you like, subscribe, and rate the podcast, so we can, get the word out there, get more people. And if you have anything you want us to chat about on the podcast, feel free to send them through to my social media pages. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. And if you have any suggestions, send them through. I'd like to hear what you think. Cheers. This is the second part of the Greg Kimball episode. If you listened to the last one, you probably remember we left you on a bit of a cliffhanger with some gigs that I've had in the past, so good to have you in the second episode. You're still recording this at the basement. You can probably hear a little bit of the background music. Yeah. There's like a jazz band playing next door, so it gives that atmospheric feel.
So the same band came back 2 weeks later, exactly when we were recording our
Exactly,
podcast.
Man. They remembered, they held their breath, because you hear a lot of like jazz musicians there. There's like, apparently, so I was walking past, this is how I get knowledge. Yeah. This is the closest I've ever come to actually learning something. And I didn't even mean to do this. So I was walking to the White Rabbit open mic. Yep. And they were having a trivia night at the sports bar there, Bleachers. Oh, yeah. And I walked past and I heard the trivia question. And the question was, which one do you think's longer, an average episode of The Simpsons without ads or credits, or the longest that anyone's ever held their breath for?
Oh.
And I'm thinking, like,
it's got to be The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah, dude. I was like, man, I just think that even, like, holding your breath for, like, 12 minutes would be just, like, phenomenally long, right? There has to be some brain damage involved in that.
Divers and stuff like that.
Yeah, like, lung capacity.
Minutes,
yeah, like, lung capacity, all that sort of shit. No, it turns out longest breath is slightly longer at, like, something around 24 minutes.
Fuck hell.
And like, I learnt something that day.
I've learnt something.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the fun facts for the podcast.
It's funny you mentioned jazz. It made me think of a funny jazz story. Well, I hope it's funny. I shouldn't preempt it like that.
Tell us your hilarious story.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Strap in. Yeah. I went to watch my partner and I years and years ago. Anthony Mundine when he was actually a good fighter.
Yeah, okay. That was a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was fighting. I think it might have even been his world title fight. And we went to go and watch it somewhere. And we just wanted to find a sports bar. We lived in Port Macquarie in New South Wales at the time. And we just left it too late. We didn't book anywhere. And so we were like, oh, well, stuff it. We'll just go and have dinner somewhere. And we found this place that had, and it said jazz in the rafters. And it was like this place with an upstairs area and a little band. And we thought, cool, we'll go and check this out. Like, I don't mind a bit of live music. And so we went up and where we happened to get a table, there's like just the TV in the corner that's showing the fight. So right. Oh, sweet. This is awesome. And so we were just watching. We were still listening to the band. We're getting into it. We're having our dinner. And they had a break. And so in the break, someone's just gone, turn the sound up. So we've turned the sound up on the fight, right? But we weren't committed to it. We'd paid money to go and see the jazz band. Anyway, after about, 10 or 15 minutes, the band gets back on stage, right? And without even no one even came up to us at any point, but they were straight on the mic and they were like, if it's okay with the thugs in the corner, we'd like to start playing jazz again. Anyone who wants to go and watch two guys punch each other's heads in, maybe need to take it outside. And we were like, whoa. Like, calm down, jazz guys. Like, we're fine. We're here for you. Like, the irony of the chill jazz guys just getting full aggro at people who were watching organised violence on TV.
Man.
Like, it was just stupid. We were, it was like some kind of topsy-turvy land. I didn't understand.
I just don't I don't understand that mentality. Although, like, let's be honest, smooth jazz over the top of a mundane fight is just the perfect setting, right?
It's a weird mix-up.
You could just imagine the tempo there. It's just completely different. Yeah, no.
It's like having Vegemite on banana or something.
Yeah, it's just this doesn't go together. Yeah. No, dude, so you mentioned you lived in Port Macquarie, and I know in your special you talk a lot about Canberra and growing up here. Is that what happened? You grew up here, moved away, and came back, or?
Yeah, that's right. So I was born here and grew up here, went through school, and did all that kind of stuff. I pretty much peaked in year 12 when I got 36 on my TER or ATAR, as it is. Yeah. I really nailed it. I really nailed year 12. And so...
you did mention going to TAFE.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a uni. Like,
yeah. After year 12, I did a shitty TAFE course.
That's a CIT entry level.
Yeah. And look, there was literally the bare minimum that I could do for my dad not to kick me out at the time.
Yep.
But then I ended up getting into television. So I moved away from Canberra in about 2000, and I worked for the local TV networks in the Central West, so Win TV, and I got a job with Prime, and so that's where I got into kind of media sort of stuff.
Yep.
In terms of comedy stuff, look, I've always, and my family have always been interested in comedy. I've got two brothers and a sister. My sister's a musician. They're all super funny. Like in the first Melbourne show that I did with Capital Punishment, on my little bio, I wrote, Greg is the fourth funniest person in his family of six. And that's true. Like, all my family are piss funny, and they always argue. They were like, whoa. Who are the fifth and sixth that are, like, less funnier than you?
I love how that's the bit that's up for dispute.
Yeah, that's right. That's the point of difference where they're all arguing about who's less funny. We all did drama at high school, and we all we've always been naturally I wouldn't say extroverted, but people who, are engaging sort of people. And Dad was funny. Dad always enjoyed comedy, and comedy and laughter was always a big part of our house. We always used to tape the Melbourne comedy festivals and the Montreal comedy festivals, and we have them on VHS and watch them over and over and over again.
Yep.
There's still routines by like Rich Hall and so many others that you could recite, by heart.
Yeah.
And so it was always something that has been in the back of my mind. Growing up, I was a super, super sooky, anxious, nervous. Even though I was a very big child, I was a big sookie. I was a big sookie.
Yeah, I get it.
Like I was one of those sorts of kids who, you know, if you saw me, you'd think I was a bully. But then if you, you know, you brush my shoulder in the way,
you'd realise you're the result of bullying. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And the result of bullying. Yeah, that's right. And so yeah, I think
most bullies are
right. The idea of actually doing stand-up, to me, was absolutely on another planet, out of the question.
Yeah.
I went to lots of comedy shows, like I was saying in the last episode, over the years, and enjoyed stand-up, and especially live stand-up, something about the interaction with the comic. But I would never sit up the front. Like, I never wanted to go anywhere near where the guy might or girl might interact with me. And even if they did, I would freeze. I was one of those people that just had nothing. I couldn't speak, you know.
Dude, crowd work relies on those people. Oh, yeah. You know, the ones that you're like, what do you do for a job?
Yeah.
And they're like, manholes.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like this guy might work for like the council, and if he just said, I work for the council, then they would say, what do you do? And he'd be like, maintenance. And like, what do you maintain? And be like, manholes. Yeah. But instead, they do it in reverse. But you need those people that freeze up and just say like, cop.
Well, you also need someone who's gonna offer something that they can actually work with.
Have you seen when people do crowd work and they're like, I ain't gonna touch that
shit? But yeah, I mean, for me, I never thought that I'd have the confidence to actually give it a crack. And, strangely enough, I did a bunch of different jobs, and I got a job. I was living on the Gold Coast. And I got a job as a Kentucky tour manager.
Right.
I was about to travel overseas. I was about to basically travel overseas for, like, you know, I had done a teach English overseas course. So I was going to try and find a job in like Thailand or Cambodia or something like that. And a friend of mine's like, oh, hey, Kentucky are hiring. You should apply. And I rang them up and they said, look, it actually closed, but if you send something through today, we'll consider it. Got an interview, went down to the interview, and essentially the interview format was you had to prepare a 5-minute talk like a Kentucky tour guide, on a subject that they gave you, and then on the strength of your talk, they would choose you for an interview later that day. And mine was the Industrial Revolution. Now, again, having not done well at school, I went through Charnwood High School. Like, I had never heard of the Industrial Revolution. I had to Google it.
Yeah.
And then I had to work out, this is quite complex. And I had to, distill that down into 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I just did a piss take speech about how shit a topic the Industrial Revolution was, and just ripped into Kentucky for giving me this shitty topic to have to work on. Which was essentially just a...
Dude, you lived in Charnwood. You were the product of the Industrial Revolution.
That's right. Which was just a stand-up routine. And then, and sure enough, I got an interview afterwards. And the interview process, it's like a good cop, bad cop thing where they put all this pressure on you to see how you'll react.
Yeah.
And to see how you'll cope under being, grilled, really. Because, I mean, you're travelling around Europe. That was a European based job. And so... And you know, I just sort of smiled sweetly and sort of copped it, and I knew that it was all for show, and so I just was polite and just kept responding and tried to be, you know, clear with my answers, and in the end they said, look, you know, we really like you, and they gave me the next an opportunity to the next stage. Now this is where it got tricky, because what happened next was I was selected to go on what they call a training tour. So I had to be in London on February the 8th or something like that, right? This is the next year. It's about 4 months later. And in that 4 months, they give you... It's an assignment. So if you think of an assignment you get at school, this is a 12-page assignment, right? So the assignment questions that we had to research and do were 12 pages.
Right.
So you had to write talks for every city in Europe, every country in Europe. You had to have notes on every landmark, on the economy, on the politics, on the history, on the geography. So you had to do this thing, right? I cheated I cheated so hard. Me and a mate, we worked together, right? And we swapped answers. So we go, all right, I'll do Germany, you do Italy, and then we basically swapped answers. So we would, and so we did this thing. But one of the things we had to do in the meantime was we had to get a visa for the UK. We had to get a working holiday visa for the UK to basically go on that training tour.
Yeah.
And then once you're in the country, you're away. Now, not ever having travelled overseas before, I did my online application where I filled in all the things and I did what they said to do. And then they said, okay, now go into the UK consulate and get your biometric testing, so your fingerprint scanning and things like that. Yeah, sweet. Went and did that, right? And then as I'm walking out, the people at the thing go, oh, you're done. You're all good. See you later. And I'm like, oh, so I'm all finished. Like, I'm done. I'm good. And they were like, yeah, you're good. See ya. And I walked out, and my brother was with me, and I was like, and he's like, what do you have to do now? No, I'm good. I'm sweet. So in my head, I've got a visa. I'm sweet. I'm set. Right?
Yeah.
What I didn't do, which is really, really fucking clear on the application, is to print out that whole application, which is in the fine print.
Yeah.
Send it off to the UK consulate for them to process, send it with my passport, and then they would stamp the visa and send it back to me. And I was clear. So I didn't do any of that, right? So I spent 4 months. I was living in New Zealand. I had a sweet time in New Zealand, but I was working in New Zealand, working my guts out, cheating at this assignment to get all this research material done for this thing.
Yeah.
And it was a week before I was meant to be in in London. I had my flight booked and everything. And the dude I was cheating with, he goes, oh man, my passport just arrived in the mail. I can't believe I cut it this fine. I've got my visa, I'm sweet. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, don't they just stamp your passport at the border? Like, don't they just go, oh hey Greg, we've been waiting for you. Welcome to our country. And then he, at the kind of penny drop that I just fucked this whole... And it's like a month-long process, and there was just no way I could do it. And so in the end, I had this whole dream job lined up that was going to... that was me. I was going to be this international traveller, this sort of jet setting. One day I'm in Rome, the next day I'm in Prague.
Oh,
and
man.
it was like,
You're like that dude in the movie with the airlines. What's that movie with
the DiCaprio.
Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can. Yeah.
Yeah, you were going to be DiCaprio.
I was going to be, that was
pulling
gonna
the
be my
sticker
office.
off the airline thing.
And I'd literally, I'd basically said my goodbyes to my family in terms of, oh, well, I'm an internationalist now, so I'll see all you fuckers later. Maybe come and visit me one day when I'm living in a fucking chateau in France. I was gone. I was gone, right? And and then all this went down, and I was like, it was just a nightmare. It was actually, I had probably had a bit of a breakdown. I had a genuine, massive panic attack, and then I just didn't know. I was in Bangkok with my friend. A fucking mental breakdown in Bangkok.
Yeah, dude.
It's not a good place to do it.
Yeah,
right?
you want to do that in the comfort of your own home, like the rest of us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so I was going to go home, and then my friend was like, mate, just come and... My friend was playing professional rugby in France. He's like, come and stay with me for a while. I went and stayed with him, and I was meant to travel use his place as a base and travel. Man, I just fucking slept. I just slept at his house. Slept till about midday. His wife was like, 3 days she was really cool, and then after that she's like, he's got to fucking go.
Yeah, dude.
He's got to
Whoa,
go.
that's off its head.
And so it was really rough.
Wow.
And I ended up coming home to Canberra 6 months after I left on the coldest day in Canberra in 26 years. So I'd left Prague.
Yeah.
25 degrees, this pure, perfect European summer.
Good sleeping weather.
Yeah. Canberra, it had been a top of 6, a top in the middle of the day of 6.
Yeah, right.
My mum's bird bath had
Those
frozen
days are
over.
gone. Those days are
in
gone.
the night, and it didn't thaw throughout the whole day.
Yeah,
that's
right.
how fucking cold it was.
Fuck.
And so I was literally like, I just had like, after all of that, had arrived back in Canberra, and I was literally just sitting there going, I should be doing something. I should be going and traveling the world and whatever. Anyway, I saw a little ad in the paper which just said learn stand-up comedy.
Yep.
And I just sort of, and I saw that, and I had watched Raw comedy.
Yep.
And I mean, it wasn't. There was a weird thing, being a person who doesn't have huge amounts of self-confidence. When I was watching Raw comedy on TV, I sort of went, they're funny, but not that funny. Like,
yeah.
There was a level.
Bill Macon had that same comment, not about Raw, but like about when he started getting into it. He was like, "These guys are professionals."
Yeah. That was the thing. I was like, I could do that.
Yeah,
I could write that joke, or I could get that response. And so I thought, I'll give it a go. And so I went to a comedy workshop with Jay Sullivan, who's a legendary Canberra stand-up who's moved interstate. I think he might be back in town now, but he doesn't do comedy anymore. And,
yep.
And he basically took us through the fundamentals of comedy over 4 weeks. It was like one night a week for 3 hours. You build up a 5-minute routine, and then we did a paid gig at the end of that at the Tuggeranong Arts Centre.
Yeah, right.
Which was actually probably the easiest and gentlest way, I think, of getting into comedy, is to do a little, just sort of drip feed the anxiety.
Yeah, dude.
And then eventually, you've got a set ready to go.
Right, yeah. You're saying that you like drip feed it. When I had Kai on, he was saying his first ever show was like a theatre crowd. Ever.
Yeah, right.
Like insanity. But you also mentioned going and watching shows. Yep. I didn't.
Yeah.
I wrote down everything I thought was funny for 18 months, and I put it all into one set. Like I built one set using all that material. And even to this day, there still might be something in a set that I do which started in that first wave of comedy notes.
Right. Yeah.
Just because a lot of what I do is observational humour, and a lot of the stuff that I wrote down was stuff that I picked up just through life.
Yeah.
I was catching the bus to work. There's plenty of material on the bus, office work, all that sort of stuff. You're just writing everything. I was just writing everything down.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever did comedy was the first time I seen other people do comedy in the local scene. I'd been watching comedy specials on Netflix and stuff.
Yeah, but in a live situation.
But first time I ever seen anyone do comedy in front of me was when I was doing it soon after.
Baptism of fire, dude. That's brutal.
It was at Smith's.
Yeah.
I brought 2 of my buddies with me who I'd been practicing my set on before.
Yep.
And then I went on stage and did my set, and it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
Like, it was okay for a first set.
Yep.
It wasn't. The good thing was it wasn't crazy polished.
Yep.
Because then it would have been hard to follow. A lot of people nail their first set.
Yeah.
And then they use that material for like the next few times.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, oh, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Well, then
so,
you've got to keep producing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did Smith's at the front and then Phoenix, and I was just doing that circuit for a little while, where it's just 3 rooms in town. Only 2 years ago, there was only 3 rooms in town. Yep. That was it. Civic Pub on for the big players. And then I didn't get it. I just did those, and every time there's a new mic in town, I'll add that to my list. And at the moment, there's pretty much one every week. Yeah. So it's cool. But like I was teased in the last episode, I've done comedy around the place, and I think I've talked about this in a previous episode briefly. But I went to Melbourne to do comedy, and you're saying about the MC didn't know that person was getting on stage, right?
Yeah, right.
I went along and signed up. Now the room runner did the run sheet, but the MC was a different person. So I didn't know anyone. I go up to the room runner, sign on to the sheet. He builds a set list and gives it to the MC. And I don't know whereabouts he's put me in that set list. Right. So I sat in the front. on the edge of my seat waiting to go up. And
you're not an inconspicuous fella.
No, well, like, look, and for someone that wants to do crowd work, they're going to choose the guy in the front that's, like, sitting on the edge of the seat.
That's got every feature in a Guess Who
like,
game. Yeah.
You're going to choose the dude that's hugging his water that looks nervous as shit and just think that he's just there to watch comedy. And anyone's name that started with M, like next to the stage we have Mary Jane. Just, okay. And then, or you'd hear like, this next person's got a show in the Melbourne Comedy Fest. Be like, oh, thank God I got another 5 minutes. This next person's a really funny guy. Cool, I got another 5 minutes. This guy's a really good friend of mine. Oh, this could be me because every MC is always the best friends with everybody. Yeah. And then he's doing riffing. He's like, he's got jokes about. He had a joke about Dr. Phil, and he's like, "Oh, do you watch Dr. Phil? So no, I don't. Okay, cool. Do you own reptiles? You look like someone that owns reptiles. Like, no. He's like, all right, just say you own reptiles, and I'll give you a drink ticket. And I'm like, nah. Like,
I definitely don't own reptiles.
I think the penny dropped when I was like, just do your reptile bit anyway, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I said to him, and he was like, and then is like, it just goes on with this reptile bit, and then he sort of gets to the point where it's like, next to the stage we have Marky Worthington, and then I stand up, and he's just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And the crowd is just like, fuck yeah, like everyone's like, yes.
Oh, so they were on your side?
So I grabbed my phone out, and there was a coffee table like next in front of the stage. It was apartment comedy in Melbourne. So this place set up like an apartment.
Right.
Each corner of the bar is like a different room, and the stage has a bathtub behind it.
Yeah.
And I just set my phone up before that. I hit record. I get up on stage, and the video that I put on my Facebook and YouTube is just that, where it kicks off. It's me just going, all right, now it's my turn on the mic, motherfuckers, and everyone's laughing. And I just get into it, and I start like doing a little roast on the MC. Like, I'm like saying, it looks like Edward Scissorhands and shit. And he had like a really weird laugh, and I cut this part out of the second half. Yeah. He would laugh at his own jokes, and it was like really, like a really weird laugh. Yeah. Like a high pitch kind of laugh. Yep. And I was just like, oh, I'm glad to see that this roast isn't making him laugh, because he's the only one in this room I don't want to fucking laugh anymore. And like, so I just get into this whole thing, and then I was single at the time, and I was just going through all my Tinder material, and people are digging it. There was a couple of girls came in, like, and I was just like, they were like, woo, like doing the woo thing, and I'm just like, yeah, like, remember to swipe right later, I'll be around, and like there's guys coming in and just stepping in front of like the camera and crap, and I'm just going like, that's it, just fuck it up for everyone. Like it was like the shitty fucking budget version of the Philly rant for me.
Right.
Like it was, and I put it on stage, and it's the only video my mum's ever seen of me doing comedy until I put up the Short Fast Funny recently, and she was just like, I'd love to come to one of your shows, but you just seem so angry, and I'm like, it's not like that all the time. But yeah, so yeah, that was the
like a killer first gig though.
Well, like it was in Melbourne, man. It was just out of my comfort zone,
and it was obviously set up for you in the sense that people were with you. You're on your own. You've been sitting there. Old mate's been kind of ragging on you a little bit. Yeah. But there's something ballsy about sitting in the front row of an open mic for your first gig, and then just standing up and just fucking going, all right, let's dance.
Oh man, like, dude, I love that shit. If I can get on stage hot, I love that. It's just a different vibe. But there was the good part about that was that he came back and was just still in shock. Like the MC just goes, I think I just got roasted by Dumbledore. And that gets the crowd back on his side, and it's all G.
He's also giving you a nod. And paid a bit of respect. And
he came up to me, and he's just like, dude, I said I'd give you drink tickets if you told me you own reptiles. Here's 2 for putting on that little bit.
Nah, that's phenomenal.
And then I'm like, dude, as you do when you roast people, it's just how it goes. He's like, yeah, man, fucking I know how it is. And like, we're G. And when I was down in Melbourne earlier this year, he was at one of the mics.
Yeah, right.
So I caught up with him again. I went to a mic in Melbourne, completely booked the fuck out.
Yeah, okay.
they had me on last, and they didn't get time to put the last 3 people up. So I sat there through the whole thing and didn't get to go on stage. No, so you know what I did? Everyone, because they closed the bar. They were it was 12 o'clock. It was like, get the fuck out. They were only meant to go till 10. Like, everyone's... 11, sorry.
Yeah.
And everyone's just getting fucking frustrated. So I get out, where everyone's out the front waiting for Ubers. We're all pissed comedians, I grab like a bar stool that was out the front, and I like stand on the first bit where you put your feet and stand up and just start doing my 5-minute bit to like all the comedians that were just inside. And it worked just as well. Like, people were laughing at, and I just did my 5 minutes to everyone out the front while we're waiting for our Ubers. And one of the guys came over and said like that he's seen me before when I was here the first time. So there was 2 people there that were at that mic that remembered me.
Oh, that's phenomenal, man.
So it's like really over a year later. But I just love that feel, man. And it's good to see that they're still doing it after, because like, the turnaround's pretty high with comedians.
And look, that's a great story about actually like making, getting your voice heard. Like, you sat there the whole night watching all these other clients do their thing, and you were like, nah, fuck it. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, dude. No, I love that shit, man. And
it's funny, like, a gig's a gig. I don't know how much time we've got, but I'll tell you a quick story. I was talking about Jez in the last episode. Jez Margosis and I, we did, and a couple of the other guys from Capital Punishment originally, we did a show in Burrawa. And there was a contact that Jez had who booked this room, and he had all these people. And he was saying to us that he had 100 people coming to this gig. It was going to be a fundraiser. We were going to get all this money. We get there. There's no tickets sold. So this guy's just bullshitted to us. 2 people turned up by showtime. We were driving around the town and going into other pubs and asking people to come to our show. And they're just like, nah, man, we're not coming.
Shit.
And the last one we went to, we went into the back of this... into the backyard of this pub. It's called the Top Pub in Burrawa. And there's about 50 Harleys, right? So there's a motorbike gang or a group of bikies, essentially. And we walk in and we just start chatting to them, going, hey, we're here doing a comedy show. Do you guys want to come down? And they're like, nah, but you can do it here. And we were like... yeah, right. So we ended up doing this show to this group of bikies in the backyard, like no microphone, no lights, nothing. We were standing on like this little wooden gazebo, and look, they were all fucking blind, and they were pretty rough. Like, I emceed, and there was another 5 guys, and they just ripped me the whole time. And like, we just sort of went with it. We weren't trying to be smart asses. In the end, they were heckling each other, like they were heckling across.
Dude. Yeah.
And it just sort of went on and on, and one dude who was with us, Kale, he was probably the only one who actually gave them a bit of stick back. And there was one guy called the Sergeant at Arms of the club, was a dude called Doodle. And this little tiny guy with a massive beard called Doodle was going to Kale. He's like, oh, mate, I wouldn't fuck you if I'd had 24 beers, And Kale's like, oh, come on, Doodle. It'll be all right. And he stepped down and he touched his face, like he touched his beard.
Yeah.
And Doodle, like, slapped his hand away. And we were like... oh, that's it, we're fucked. Like, we're going to get stabbed.
This is the end,
This is it. And then I ended up standing up. Like, I'm not calling myself a hero, but I was pretty much a hero. And I, like, sort of stood in between Doodle and Kale and was like, oh, no, it's all good, sort of chill out. And then Doodle kind of made another joke to kind of win back the kind of, the respect of his comrades.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was all sort of sweet. And then afterwards they were just like, we just wanted to kind of roll you up, give you a bit of a hard time.
Yeah, dude. That's insane.
And we were just like, it was the loosest. We took a video of it and all this sort of stuff. Like, it was the loosest gig I've ever done in my life. I've never actually felt physically threatened.
Yeah.
But no, I thought that could go pear-shaped at any time.
Absolutely, man, especially because you're on their turf. But it reminds me, have you seen I'm Dying Up Here? It's a TV series. Where they perform at the bikie bar, and then he's just like, look, man, I appreciate your balls for like having a go at me. And he's like, oh, thanks, man, no worries. Well, I'll see you next time. He's like, no, you don't understand. I need to punch you in the face now. He's just like...
there's respect to be maintained.
Yeah, like, look, I just want you to know, man to man, that was legit, but so's this. Like, I need to even this out. Man.
Thankfully, that didn't happen to us.
No, dude. Well, I think sometimes gigs are worth it just for the story. Like if you can get
for
out
sure.
of it without a punch to the face, it's just like over the years it builds your stories up and you got more stuff. But yeah, we're gonna have to wrap it up with that, man.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Cheers again for coming on the show. Now I know you've got a comedy show in the Comedy Festival, Canberra Comedy Festival.
I do. Yeah, I'm on this year at the Canberra Comedy Festival on the 18th of March at the Canberra Theatre in one of the rooms there, which I've forgotten.
Yep.
But the show's called Head.
Yep.
Greg Kimball Head. And so if you Google that, I'm sure you'll find it. But it's one night only at this point. But if I sell enough tickets, they might give me another one.
Oh, well, hopefully you can get to the point where you got another show.
Yeah,
it's good to hear, man. And also, I got your special. I want other people to get it too. It's called Gus Up.
So you're the one.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have sent everyone the link. Actually, Yeah, so I got that one. Dig it. I reckon other people should get it too. There's a link for that on your social media, which I'll tag in this post.
Yeah, and my website as well.
Yeah,
which is www.gregkimball.com.au.
Oh, perfect, man. All right, well, like I said, good to have you on the show and hype some upcoming gigs. Be good to maybe have you back later on down the track.
Mate, I'd love to. Thanks for having me, Marky. It's been good chatting.
Excellent, man. Cool.
Laters.